will be reviewing The Art of Loving, written by psychologist Erich Fromm, who writes from the position that love is simply the striving to find connectedness with people. He postulates the theory of innate loneliness. He writes in his book, quote, "This awareness of himself as a separate entity, the awareness of his own short lifespan, of the fact that without his will he is born, and against his will he dies, that he will die before those whom he loves, or they before him, the awareness of his aloneness and separateness, of his helplessness before the forces of nature and of society, all this makes him separate, disunited all this makes his separate, disunited existence an unbearable prison. He would become insane could he not liberate himself from this prison and reach out, unite himself in some form and other with men, with the world outside. The existence of separateness arouses anxiety. It is indeed the source of anxiety," end quote. And then he also says about it that, quote, "They," meaning lovers, "take the intensity of the infatuation, this being crazy about each other, for the proof of the intensity of their love, while it may only prove the degree of their preceding loneliness," end quote. So what he's saying is that we're all innately alone. We're just a small microcosm of the large world that we find ourselves in, and that this causes anxiety, and we kind of cope with this by trying to connect with others, and we're all looking for a connection. And he says that there are two ways of doing this, love and conformity. And the first way he talks about is conformity, and he writes on that, quote, "Conformity with the group, its customs, practices, and beliefs." He says that the union with the group is the prevalent way of overcoming separateness. It is a union in which the individual self disappears to a large extent, and where the aim is to belong to the herd. People want to conform to a much higher degree than they are forced to conform. And what he's saying there is that the same thing, that we're innately alone, and that one way we look to conform is I kind of try to find like-minded people and kind of join their group, their little herd, and in that I kind of find that my anxiety's lowered a little bit. I don't feel as alone if I can relate to someone because they like the Patriots too, or this person is similar to me in this way, and it kind of it lowers that anxiety about being alone. And another way of doing this is to find love. And when he talks about love, he talks about that this is the desire of, quote, "interpersonal union, a fusion with another person in love. This desire for interpersonal fusion is the most powerful striving in man," end quote. And he talks about this fusion. He talks about different types of love, and one section that I found very interesting is where he talks about, where is it here? He talks about motherly and fatherly love, and he kind of uses it, not literally, but as, well, I guess literally, but he talks about, I'm trying to find this quote here, give me a sec. Can't find it. Can't go on until I find this quote. Here we go. Sorry about that. Motherly conscience says, "There is no misdeed, no crime which could deprave you of my love, of my wish for your life and happiness." Fatherly conscience says, "You did wrong, you cannot avoid accepting certain consequences of your wrongdoing, and most of all, you must change your ways if I am to like you." The mature person loves with both motherly and the fatherly conscience, in spite of the fact that they seem to contradict each other. If he would only retain his fatherly conscience, he would become harsh and inhuman. If he would only retain his motherly conscience, he would be apt to lose judgment and to hinder himself and others in their development. So this is it's almost like a Freudian approach of like your childhood development affects how you are as an adult. He talks about how if you receive a lot of motherly love, or you retain the motherly love, is that you love without, your lover doesn't have to do anything to earn your love. You just love them, and that your love for them is unconditional. Whereas if I love my significant other with kind of fatherly love, which is a little more cruel but logical. It says that I love you, but you need to fix yourself in A, B, and C, and if you don't, then you're not going to earn my love for you. And I thought that that was an interesting and relevant analogy. And he talks about how love is, he says that you have to love, the old thing where you have to love yourself before you love anyone else. And he says that love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, an orientation of character, which determines the relatedness of a person to the world as a whole, not toward one object of love, meaning your significant other. So I have to I have to love myself, and I have to love my life. And if I love, you have to love life. And if you love life and you have a positive attitude, then you can kind of, only at that point, Fromm says you can go and love somebody else. He also talks about love of God. He says an interesting thing here. He says, man of truly religious cultures may be compared with children at the age of 8, who need Father as a helper, but who begin to adopt his teachings and principles in their lives.